correct. Yeah.
I'm nervous this is going to be undermined by your reply to Fritz, but you spoke a lot about the claims about Christian faith that sort of go beyond science, right? But I'm interested also in the claims that seem to have some sort of direct bearing, or seem to have a quasi-scientific character. Historically, at least, people have thought that part of the Christian belief involved a certain belief about the accuracy of Scripture, and so we ought to take as accurate claims like the sun stood still for a few hours so Joshua could win a battle. 6,000 years ago, the earth was flooded, things of this sort. And people have thought maybe we should include that things like physical matter can actually be sort of revivified. That sounds like a scientific claim, or at least one that in some broader sense, not the Fritz sense, but the broader sense of scientific knowledge at least could in principle be scientifically verified or proven as something. And, some people have thought, yes, it is, and as a result, they've thought science does actually call us to revise Christian faith because it tells us that, well, the sun didn't stand still, or it hasn't stood still, and so we should metaphorize that, or we should reread that stuff, or even in the resurrection case, people go extreme, right? Say, well, maybe it's a spiritual talk, something like that. Are those cases, for one, do you think Christian faith does make essentially scientific claims? Two, in cases where we then find conflict with those, is the appropriate response to modify what we take the Christian faith to be saying about these things, and so make them in line with science, in which case, in those cases, isn't science right in correcting at least some aspects of the Christian faith? Maybe not the whole, undermining the whole thing, but couldn't they defeat some of the claims it makes?
Okay, so there are many points here. So you were saying, with reference to Fritz or Ted, what do I take science to be here? And when I suggested that for the specific Christian beliefs there is no scientific warrant, what do I take science there to be? Does it include this historical thing, or? And here, of course, I was only thinking of the natural sciences. It seems to me that given these beliefs, one should say, well, the kind of warrant that's produced by the work of physicists and biologists and so forth, that kind of work doesn't provide warrant for these specifically Christian beliefs. And my point was, and that isn't bad. That needn't be bad at all. It isn't even to be expected that sort of science would produce warrant for those beliefs. It would be somehow strange if you expect that to be. And I of course, am much more, I'm better I'm more aware of what's going on in Europe and especially in the Netherlands when it comes to these situations. But there I've met very many people who will simply say, when it comes to, not only existence claims, but also existence claims and others, we simply should ask the scientists for advice, and they can enlighten us. So it was more with those people in mind that I made this claim. But another point I'd like to say in response to your remark is that I was careful to define Christian faith with reference to the ecumenical creeds. And of course, the ecumenical creeds, they don't refer to this passage of Hiskia, sun stand still. And of course, in the Christian tradition preceding Darwin, it was generally believed that the Earth is relatively young and so forth. But none of that seemed to me to be part of the ecumenical creed. So I don't take that to be definitive of the Christian faith.
Just one follow-up. So, on your view, does the Christian faith make any claim, not that has to be verified by the deliverances of science, but that could, in principle, be verified or, as it were, disproven by scientific inquiry?
Well, Christianity, of course, is an historical religion, and it takes its cue from events that have taken place in history. If there is a science that has a handle on past events, and let's say that's history, and that science was to show that none of these events that are crucial for, or from which Christian faith takes its cue, that they didn't take place. Well, then surely it seems to me that it would be would it be a very bad idea for traditional Christian faith. But the point is, I don't think anything like a compelling case for anything like that has been made.
René, have you had the opportunity, or would you take the opportunity to engage Notre Dame scientists in a discussion of these concepts?
Yes, I think I did that this afternoon.
No, but I mean, aside from the people that are here, with noted scientists here at the university in a dialogue.
Whether I would be willing to participate in such a
Yes.
oh yes, sure, yeah. It seems to me that it's if you're, as a philosopher, if you're trying to think about these topics, then it's incumbent upon you that you try to talk with people who are doing the actual scientific work. And back in the Netherlands, I had a big project going on with physicists and mathematicians, on a project on chance. And so there it wasn't just me who was doing my philosophical conceptual analysis type of work, but these people were actually, they knew and actually did the relevant physics and mathematics. So, right, this is only saying that, yes, I am prepared and have been trying to engage in a kind of conversation.
I think there would be a great deal of interest in that if you could find some willing to engage you.
Well, Bob, set it up.
I was just wondering, when you were talking about whether or not science warrants Christian faith and the nature of sort of what the results of science were, I was wondering if you could say maybe a little bit more about what it would be for science to provide a defeater for the Christian faith. So would it need to be that something that was purely science established a claim that was compatible with the Christian faith, or here's something that seems like it might happen more often, or at least apparently happen more often. Science might establish a claim that, along with some other plausible or widely held theses, seems to provide a defeater for the Christian faith.
Well, so the point I've been trying to make is that what has actually, or the examples of, or the proposed defeaters for Christian belief were in fact interesting amalgams of scientific facts in conjunction with either, worldview-driven appropriation of a part of science, or scientific facts in conjunction with, really extrapolations from scientific work. And it seems to me that, if you are working on the sort of project or in this sort of framework that I'm working in, then the thing to do would be to see what in the amalgam does the real work, does the real defeating work. The more it is the purely scientifically established fact, the more difficult it will be to find a defeater for that defeater. But, the more worldview-driven appropriations of scientific research is actually doing the work, or the more, the extrapolation from science is doing the work, then, so to speak, the easier it is, or then the more comfortable, in a certain sense, the easier it would be to defeat the possible defeater.